students, welcome to lesson 8, types of research, quantitative and qualitative. The social science researchers have been inclined towards quantitative or positivist influence. However, since the early 1980s, there has been an increase of interest in qualitative or naturalistic approaches to research. Some researchers have been opined that qualitative or naturalistic method should be the preferred approach for social sciences. Others maintain that qualitative methods may gather data about human behavior that is impossible to obtain by the more quantitative techniques. After completion of this lesson, you will be able to understand quantitative research, its elements, methods, strengths and limitations. Understand qualitative research, its elements, methods, strengths and limitations. You will be able to differentiate between quantitative and qualitative research. Let us now first discuss about quantitative research. Quantitative research involves the process of objectively collecting and analyzing numerical data to describe, predict or control variables of interest. The goals of quantitative research are to test causal relationships between variables, make predictions and generalize results to wider populations. Quantitative researchers aim to establish general laws of behavior and phenomenon across different settings or contexts. Research is used to test a theory and ultimately support or reject it. Quantitative research can be done using primary or secondary data. Primary data is gathered by a researcher directly from the respondents in a research study. Secondary data is collected by some other individual or agency which is being used by the researcher. It is also available in macro data sets such as the census and national databases. The objective of quantitative research is to develop and use mathematical models, theories and hypotheses pertaining to various phenomena. The three basic elements of quantitative research are concepts and constructs, variables and measurement. Concept is a term that expresses an abstract idea formed by generalization from particulars. It is formed by summarizing related observations. In development studies, terms such as development, democracy, equality are used as concepts. Concept is basically an idea and is used by researchers to make meaningful summaries of observations. These summaries help researchers to organize their observations and data and to look for explanations or patterns in them. When the concepts are operationalized, they become construct. For instance, if intelligence is a concept, intelligence quotient IQ is the means to measure and thus is a construct. A variable in quantitative research is a phenomenon or event that can be measured or manipulated. Researchers attempt to test a number of related variables to develop an underlying meaning or relationship among them. For example, education is one of the variables that is used to study development. Variables can be classified in terms of their relationship with each other. The types of variables are independent and dependent variable, discrete and continuous variable, quantitative and qualitative variable. In quantitative research, the aim of a study is to determine the relationship between an independent variable and a dependent or outcome variable in a population. Independent variables can be varied by the researcher in the sense that it can be selected by the researcher. For example, independent variables like income, education. A discrete variable includes a finite set of values. It cannot be divided into subparts. For example, population, sex and religious affiliation are other discrete variables. A continuous variable can take on any value including fractions. For example, the time spent by working couple on household tasks can be expressed as 1.5 hours on cleaning, 1 hour 15 minutes on washing, 2 hours 25 minutes on cooking, etc. Quantitative variables are those that can be expressed in terms of numbers or quantity. For example, height, weight and age are expressed in terms of numbers. Qualitative variables are those variables that are expressed in terms of attributes or qualities. For example, satisfaction with services, quality of education, etc. The process of measurement is central to quantitative research. Quantitative research requires that the variables under consideration can be measured. It provides the fundamental connection between empirical observation and mathematical expression of quantitative relationships. There are 4 different levels of measurement. They are nominal, ordinal, interval and ratio. The nominal level is the least powerful form of measurement. In this measurement, numerals or other symbols are used to classify persons, objects or characteristics. For example, matter can be classified into 3 categories: solid, liquid and gas. The ordinal level is used to classify and arrange persons, objects or characteristics according to ranks. Ranks are used to place persons, objects or characteristics in order, but the distance between 2 objects on a scale are not equal. Ordinal scales are used only for ranking from the highest to the lowest. An interval scale has intervals between adjacent points that are of equal value. For example, in an interval scale, the same degree of heat is needed to heat an object from 40 to 50 degrees as to heat it from 50 to 60 degrees. Scales at ratio level of measurement have all the properties of interval scales with true 0 point. With this fixed 0 point, ratio judgments can be made. While nominal level is only concerned with classification, the ordinal level has the properties of ranking in addition to classification. The interval scale has all the properties of the ordinal level in addition to intervals between adjacent points on a scale with equal value. The ratio scale has the additional property of a true 0 point. Quantitative research requires construction of 2 types of measures of variables: scales and indices. Some measures like the number of women in population of a state can be adequately measured without scales and indices. The measurement of women empowerment, gender equality, development is complex and requires the use of specially developed scales and indices. A scale is a measurement of intensity of an attitude and emotions. Indices are measure of quantity of some social phenomenon and are constructed at ratio level of measurement. All scales are tested to ensure reliability and validity of measurement before being used in research. A measurement must have these 2 related qualities to be useful in research. A measurement is reliable if it consistently gives the same answer at different points in a time. For example, a scale used to measure the length of a table must give the same score if used repeatedly at different points of time. In addition to being reliable, a measurement must also be valid. If a measuring device measures what it is supposed to measure, the device is a valid one. Let us now understand different methods in quantitative research. Several methods are used in quantitative research. Some of these are experiments, observation, questionnaire, interview schedule, surveys, etc. Experiments are concerned with measuring things. However, other research methods such as controlled observations and questionnaires can produce quantitative information. It uses this scientific method to establish the cause-effect relationship among a group of variables that make up a study. Multiple theories can be used to conduct this research. The components of the experimental research design focus on the comparison of group of participants who are randomly selected and assigned to experimental and control groups. An independent variable, which can be referred to as the experimental variable, that can be applied to the experimental group. A dependent variable, which can be referred to as the effect that can be measured in an identical manner for all groups. Surveys include cross-sectional and longitudinal studies using questionnaires or interview schedule for data collection with the intent of estimating the characteristics of a large population of interest based on a smaller sample from that population. Correlational research is used to establish a relationship between two close entities and to determine how one impacts the other. For this, a researcher needs to at least two separate groups. This type of research will recognize trends and patterns in data, but it does not go so far in the analysis to observe the different patterns. Let us now understand about data analysis in quantitative research. Statistics help us turn quantitative data into useful information to help in decision making. Statistics help in summarizing data, describing patterns, relationships, and connections. Statistics can be descriptive or inferential. Descriptive statistics help us to summarize our data, whereas inferential statistics are used to identify statistically significant differences between groups of data, such as intervention and control groups in a randomized control study. Let us now understand the key features of quantitative research. Quantitative researchers try to control extraneous variables by conducting their studies in the lab. An extraneous variable is any variable that the researcher is not investigating but can potentially affect the outcomes of the research. If left uncontrolled, extraneous variables can lead to inaccurate conclusions about the relationship between independent and dependent variables. The research aims for objectivity, that is, without bias. For the quantitative researcher, reality is objective and exists separately to the researcher and is capable of being seen by anyone. The research design of the quantitative research is determined before it begins. Research is used to test a theory and ultimately support or reject it. The limitations of quantitative research are context. With reference to context, quantitative experiments do not take place in natural settings. In addition, they do not allow participants to explain their choices or the meaning of the questions may have for those participants. Researcher expertise. Poor knowledge of the application of statistical analysis may negatively affect analysis and subsequent interpretation. Variability of data quantity. Large sample sizes are needed for more accurate analysis. Small scale quantitative research may be less reliable because of the less quantity of data. This also affects the ability to generalize study findings to wider population. Confirmation bias. The researcher might miss observing phenomena because of focus on theory or hypothesis testing rather than on the theory of hypothesis generation. Let us now understand some of the significant strengths of quantitative research. Quantitative research ensures scientific objectivity. Quantitative data can be interpreted with statistical analysis. Since statistics is based on the principles of mathematics, the quantitative approach is viewed as scientifically objective and rational. It is useful for testing and validating already constructed theories. Quantitative research helps in rapid analysis. Sophisticated software removes much of the need for prolonged data analysis, especially with large volumes of data involved. Replication is an important aspect of quantitative research. Quantitative data is based on measured values and can be checked by others because numerical data is less open to ambiguities of interpretation. In quantitative research, hypotheses can also be tested because of the use of statistical analysis. Let us now discuss about qualitative research. Qualitative research is the process of collecting, analyzing and interpreting non-numerical data such as language. Qualitative research can be used to understand how an individual subjectively perceives and gives meaning to their social reality. Qualitative data is defined as non-numerical data such as text, video, maps, images, photographs or audio recordings. This type of data can be collected using diary accounts or in-depth interviews and analyzed using grounded theory or thematic analysis. Qualitative research is multi-method in focus, involving an interpretive naturalistic approach to its subject matter. This means that qualitative researchers study things in their natural settings, attempting to make sense of or interpret phenomena in terms of the meanings people bring to them. The aim of qualitative research is to understand the social reality of individuals, groups and cultures as nearly as possible as its participants feel it or live it. Thus, people and groups are studied in their natural setting. Qualitative research is exploratory and seeks to explain how and why a particular phenomenon or behavior operates as it does in a particular context. It can be used to generate hypotheses and theory from the data. Let us now explore the different methods in qualitative research. In qualitative research, the researcher has several methods for collecting empirical data, ranging from interview to direct observation to the analysis of artifacts, documents and cultural records to the use of visual materials or personal experience. The unstructured interview, which is a significant method of qualitative research, generates qualitative data through the use of open questions. This allows the respondent to talk in some depth, choosing their own words. This helps the researcher to develop a real sense of a person's understanding of a situation. For instance, biography is used to explore the life of an individual, whereas phenomenological inquiry is used to understand the essence of experiences of persons about a phenomenon. In a phenomenological study, human experiences are examined through detailed description of the people being studied. The goal is to understand the lived experience of the individuals being studied. This approach involves researching a small group of people intensively over a long period of time. Grounded theory approach is adopted to develop a theory grounded in data from the field. Ethnography aims at describing and interpreting a cultural and social group. In ethnographic research, the researcher studies an intact cultural group in a natural setting over a specific period of time. A cultural group can be any group of individuals who share a common social experience, location, or other social characteristic of interest. This could range from an ethnographic study of cultural group in Djibouti to a study of Gonds in Telangana. In a case study, the researcher explores a single entity or phenomenon, that is the case, bounded by time and activity, for example, a program, event, institution or social group, and collects detailed information through a variety of data collection methods. The qualitative research methods adopt qualitative techniques of data collection such as interviews, observation, study of documents, relevant records, etc., and incorporate descriptive and narrative approaches of data analysis. Participant observation, oral history, historical analysis, focus group discussions, etc. are also significant methods of qualitative research. The results of qualitative methods provide a deep understanding of how people perceive their social realities and, in consequence, how they act within the social world. Let us now understand data analysis in qualitative research. Qualitative interpretations are constructed and various techniques can be used to make sense of data such as content analysis, grounded theory, thematic analysis or discourse analysis. The various ways of analyzing qualitative research are ideal types, successive approximation, illustrative method, domain analysis, analytic comparison, negative case method, narrative analysis, network analysis, time allocation analysis, flow chart and time sequence, multiple sorting procedure, diagrams, maps, images, etc. Let us now understand the key features of qualitative research. Events can be understood adequately only if they are seen in a context. Therefore, a qualitative researcher immerses in the field in natural surroundings. The contexts of inquiry are not artificial, they are natural. Nothing is predefined or taken for granted. Qualitative research is an interactive process in which the person's studies teach the researcher about their lives. The individuals who are studied speak for themselves to provide their perspectives in words and other actions. The qualitative researcher is an integral part of the data. Without the active participation of the researcher, no data exists. The design of the study evolves during the research and can be adjusted or changed as it progresses. For the qualitative researcher, there is no single reality. It is subjective and exists only in reference to the observer. Theory is data driven and emerges as part of the research process, evolving from the data as they are collected. Let us now understand the limitations of qualitative research. Qualitative research does not generally draw samples from large scale data sets. The problem of adequate validity or reliability is a major limitation. Because of the subjective nature of qualitative data and its origin in single context, it is difficult to apply conventional standards of reliability and validity. For example, because of the central role played by the researcher in the generation of data, it is not possible to replicate qualitative studies. Also, contexts, situations, events, conditions and interactions cannot be replicated to any extent, nor can generalizations be made to a wider context than the one studied with any confidence. The time required for data collection, analysis and interpretation are lengthy. Analysis of qualitative data is difficult and expert knowledge of an area is necessary to try to interpret qualitative data, and great care must be taken when doing so, for example, if looking for symptoms of mental illness. There are also several strengths of qualitative research. The researcher's involvement helps the researcher to gain an insider's view of the field. This allows the researcher to find issues that are often missed, such as the subtleties and complexities by the scientific, more positivistic inquiries. Qualitative descriptions can play the important role of suggesting possible relationships, causes, effects and dynamic processes. Qualitative analysis allows for ambiguities, contradictions in the data which are a reflection of social reality. Qualitative research uses a descriptive narrative style. This research might be of particular benefit to the practitioner as he or she could turn to qualitative reports in order to examine forms of knowledge that might otherwise be unavailable, thereby gaining new insight. Let us understand the distinction between quantitative and qualitative research. Firstly, quantitative research is specific and precise, whereas qualitative research is general and loosely structured. In quantitative research, hypothesis is formulated before the study, whereas in qualitative research, hypothesis is formulated either during the study or after the study. In quantitative research, the research design is prescriptive, whereas in qualitative research, the research design is not prescriptive. In quantitative research, sampling is planned before data collection and is representative, whereas in qualitative research, sampling is planned during data collection and is not representative. The aim of quantitative research is to classify features, count them and construct statistical models in an attempt to explain what is observed. However, the aim of qualitative research is complete detailed description. In quantitative research, the researcher knows clearly well in advance what he or she is looking for, whereas in qualitative research, the researcher may only know roughly in advance what he or she is looking for. In quantitative research, all aspects of the study are carefully designed before data is collected. However, in qualitative research, the design emerges as the study unfolds. In quantitative research, the researcher uses tools such as questionnaire to collect numerical data, whereas in qualitative research, the researcher is the data gathering instrument. In quantitative research, The data is in the form of numbers and statistics, whereas in qualitative research, data is in the form of words or pictures. Quantitative research is relatively objective in nature. It seeks precise measurement and analysis of concepts. It uses surveys, questionnaires, etc. On the other hand, qualitative research is subjective in nature. Individuals' interpretation of events is important. It uses methods like participant observation, in-depth interviews, etc. Quantitative data is more efficient, able to test hypotheses, whereas qualitative data is richer, time consuming and less able to be generalized. Quantitative research involves the process of objectively collecting and analyzing numerical data to describe, predict or control variables of interest. The goals of quantitative research are to test causal relationships between variables, make predictions and generalize results to wider populations. The aim of qualitative research is to understand the social reality of individuals, groups and cultures as nearly as possible as its participants feel it or live it. Thus, people and groups are studied in their natural setting. There is clear distinction between both the types of research, though in many research studies both the methods are used simultaneously.